All the second stage tanks now pressurized. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with bite.
Hello and welcome to HBR Talk 381, Men's Cost of Living in Ukraine. I'm your host, Hannah Wallen, here with the personification of perceptivity, Mike Stevenson. Nonsense
Hello.
Annihilator, Lauren Brooks is going to be late. Oh, and yes, Mike says hello. And in the background, we got the Doge in charge, Brian Martinez, making sure that everything goes the way that it's supposed to go. And tonight, the stream is going to be a bit dark. But this is something people really need to be aware of. And it's something I've been wanting to try to get across, and I've been looking for ways to get it across. And
Have we ever had a stream that's a bit light?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have had some fun, like, making fun of the I can't think of what they were called, those female incels that were all about female dating strategists. We did some shows on them. But
No, that was dark
yeah.
too. It's all dark. It's all darkness.
Yeah, it's all dark. Different ways of being dark. This is dark. This is like, if you're going to get pissed off. So tonight, be prepared. This is going to be rage fuel, and it's something that I think everybody should be mad about. So, I've been mad about it for years. And not just in regard to Ukraine. I will admit, the title is a little bit clickbaity because this practice is, it's not the same in every country. It's a little more heavily veiled in other countries. Maybe a little more tactfully done in other countries, but it is what it is in every country. It's done in every nation. I just put Ukraine in the title because that's the nation that the website that we're using to discuss this is looking at, and that's who's featured there. And it's also like one very recent example, and it's a very blatant example. But Lauren's gonna be a little late, so we'll probably just start out with me and Mike, and then we'll get into it a little more once Lauren is here to look at it. I may have to explain a second time what the thing is that the website features, but I'll get into all of that.
She's picking up some wine, presumably.
Yeah.
I'm already ready here with my bottle of gin.
You're gonna need it, and you need it.
I spent the last hours composing the end of my response to Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson. It's gonna be epic, folks.
I haven't watched it, so I need to watch that. I don't need to respond to it.
I will fill you in. I'm calling it Synth Fight Clash of the Titans.
Oh God, it was like that, huh?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. That is everywhere. That is everywhere, unfortunately. And so you have the left-wing simp and the right-wing simp. That's great.
Yep.
But yeah, before we get into all the material we're gonna look at today, and I apologize in advance for how horrible it is. We got to do what we got to do. As always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as experiences both long past and recent have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to switch at least their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platforms tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justatip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the Thought Police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, which is where you can find your way to all of our content, as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. And yeah, this is going to be an enraging show. So here we go, diving in. First, I got to explain to you what the thing is that we are going to be talking about. This website was drawn to my attention by one of my mutuals on X. And, okay, so somebody said there's a lot of background noise, but I'm not hearing any background noise.
I was muted just now, so it can't have been me.
Right. Let me see if... Hang on. Is it a low hum? People talking. Oh, that's not... that's definitely not from my end. 'Cause I don't have anything like that going on my computer right now. No video is open or nothing.
Oh.
Unless,
Brian.
Hang on. Unless the video... Well... Is the busification video playing?
Oh, wait, yeah, there's a weird, trippy echo thing going on. Hang on.
Nope, it's not that. Yeah, I'm not... Oh, okay. It's...
Oh, wait, I think it's you, Brian, because... Wait, it might be.
Okie dokie.
Luma. Oh, it's coming, Brian. Coming for you, that's good.
Put him up there.
Oh, Brian.
Oh. Should be okay.
Brian, don't move, don't move. The Luma's on you. Oh.
Weird drippy sound like we're in a cave. It might not have been you. I think I was confused between one here. Yeah, it's if you listen to the YouTube upload, you can hear it.
It's trying to get him. It can't get him.
Oh wait,
It's gonna come for us after.
it wasn't me.
Can't get him. Gonna run. Gonna switch targets now.
Well, if you're calling me a drip, okay.
Oh, lucky.
I don't know. I have no idea what would cause that. That's a weird one, and it's not a sound that's playing from what I've got on my computer. Yeah. I don't know if
It's actually not entirely unpleasant. It's sort of atmospheric, but it might annoy people for a while.
I can't hear any. I'm not listening to the show, so.
Oh no, wait. I
Is
think
the
it's
chat
fixed.
here?
I think it's fixed now. That sounds good now.
Okay.
I mean, I'm trying to listen to
TV show.
I'm trying to listen to the Discord and the YouTube at the same time, and it's fucking up my brain. But no.
Okay.
Yeah, no. I think it's good.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's good now. I think we're good. Yeah.
All right. The thing we're talking about today, like I said, my attention was drawn to this by one of my mutuals on X, and he sent me a link to the English version of the website. The original page is in Russian, and I'm sure that people say, "Oh, this is Russian propaganda." But like I said, this isn't.
Oh shit!
The show's not really about Ukraine. We're going to be talking about how this phenomenon, how this behavior is done to men in Ukraine. But the show is about the draft in general. It's about how conscription itself is violent. And it just is. I mean, every time it's done, it is done under threat of force. It's either enforced through arrest and imprisonment if you refuse. It's done through threat of being kidnapped and basically impressed into the military. Historically, it was sometimes done, in fact, frequently done, by kidnapping people and impressing them into the military against their will. Numerous governments have done that.
Right.
And it's just not to say that it's only Ukraine would be dishonest. So it is a little clickbaity for me to, like I said, to reference Ukraine, except that this particular example is actually from Ukraine. But bussification is, according to this website, which it says this term has firmly established itself in Ukraine's socio-political discourse since the onset of Russia's full-scale invasion. Neoglism derived from the word bus refers to the practice of forcibly detaining draft-age citizens. And they say citizens. They mean men, because they don't do this to women. Most countries, like the overwhelming majority of countries in the world, don't even require any military service.
Yeah, Brian, we can hear you, and we can hear Lindsay's voice.
Oh dear.
Now, I presume that means something's going. And we're still hearing the weird cave drippy noise. Sorry to interrupt you, Hannah, but
That's okay. Lots of some things. Anything else? Ah, well, at least it was something that you were able to easily figure out. It would have taken me 20 minutes. But and it just based on past history of having issues like this, it would have taken me 20 minutes.
now there appears to be no sound at all.
Wait, they don't hear anything?
I mean, I can't hear anything on the YouTube feed. I know it's
Oh
like
dear.
10 seconds behind, but
Yeah, let's see.
okay, now I hear something.
Okay. That's good. Okay, and Mr. 303 says he can hear us both. So we're good. All right. So going on with what bussification is, like I said, every country does something like this, but almost exclusively it's done to men. Women are mostly not even required to do any kind of service, and when they are, they're not required to do combat role service. It's usually some sort of civil service in their country, or they're required to do something like what the National Guard does when there's disaster, relief that needs to happen, but not usually anything like being a combat expert or any other role in the military where they actually would have to go to the combat zones, especially, much less the front lines, where men are sent when they are drafted, when they are conscripted. So I hate when they do that. They degender the term as if this happens to everybody, right? No, it happens to men. So forcibly detaining draft age men by representatives of territorial recruitment centers, Ukraine's military enlistment officers, and transporting them to assembly points, often in unmarked vans. And they did this like, oh, it's an emergency, we need men to fight this war. So I want to remind you before we go any further into this exactly how we got to this point. And part of that was during the Obama era. Remember when we did the show discussing the man who tried to shoot Trump from outside of his golf course, and they caught him, and he never even got a shot fired off at the president. But then you find out that he was recruiting people for the war in Ukraine and sending people from the United States and such, and that in the past he has worked with I don't know what to call them, not necessarily ISIS fighters and Al-Qaeda, but radicals from Afghanistan, to try to get them to recruit people to fight in Ukraine. And that rabbit hole led to us discussing, yes, Ryan Ruth, or Routh. I never could figure out. I think I looked his name up at one point, or somebody discussing him, and I think it was Ruth, but Routh. He had a hand in previous activities with the CIA, where he was recruiting ISIS fighters or other, like Al-Qaeda or other radicals from Afghanistan and other Islamic countries to go in and genocide the Russian heritage Ukrainians in Crimea, who did not want to stay attached to Ukraine during the Obama administration. The first time that there was basically an election to Russia didn't try to forcibly take Crimea at that point. It was that they voted to secede from Ukraine, and so it was quite a convoluted thing. And in searching this out, I learned that the United States federal government had contracted Islamic radicals to perpetrate a genocide in another country. So I didn't vote for Obama, but people that we elected into office were involved in this. People that were appointed by people we elected into office were involved in this. So fast forward to the war, Russia invades after all of this happens, and what's happening now is kind of a direct result of that, right? These people wanted to leave Ukraine, become part of Russia. Their historic heritage was Russian. They were murdered, and the territory that they wanted to cede over to Russia, Russia wanted that, and so that's what started the Ukraine war. And now we have these recruiters going around in these buses. It's very much like random. It's random, like the white feather movement was random. They see an adult male, or a male who looks reasonably adult, might not necessarily be. Remember, their age for being eligible for conscription goes up into your 60s if you're Ukrainian. So, and it's all the way down into just graduated from high school. And so teenagers can look like they're eligible. And so they are wanting to grab whoever they can get their hands on, as long as they're male. So it was initially perceived as an emergency measure, done under martial law, which basically means you don't have any rights. You can't protest against this. You can't sue to stop it. You can't do anything about it. If they take you and go, you have no recourse, and your family has no recourse. And even if their rules for conscription had previously exempted certain groups of people you might not be exempt, even if you're in one of those groups. And they've continued to do this, and they've been very controversial there, of course, because obviously the citizens don't like it, which I can't blame them. So this site exists to track the violations taking place and the violence taking place in this process. And like I said earlier in the show, like, this is one way, one method by which conscription is violent. Right? One of my first ancestors in this country came here at the age of 14 after being either clonked on the head or taken while drunk, kidnapped, put on a Navy ship, and impressed into the British Navy to come over and fight the rebels, and here in the colonies. And he kind of said fuck that and noped out of there as soon as he got close enough to shore to jump ship and swim away. And he fled inland beyond the colonies into Ohio, which I think at that time the UK had designated it to be part of Canada. So I always say Canada used to be part of Ohio, because I still cling to the idea that it's all Ohio, even though I learned the hard way last Tuesday that it's not. But yeah, that was how he got here. And then he was an old man before he got to go home. And he didn't get to marry the girl that he was betrothed to at that time. And he didn't get to have the family that he was originally intending to have. He married here, raised a family here, and eventually that led to me. So this is something that, I've heard that story all my life. My family has opinions about conscription. So if that hadn't happened, I might have been full-blooded Irish instead of just I think 7%. So yeah, it's a thing that's done everywhere.
Well, if you didn't have the Irish in you, then you'd be a completely different person, Hannah. This is sort of the point.
Yes,
Probably
I
wouldn't
have.
be called Hannah.
My name was taken out of the Bible.
Oh yeah, it's not Irish. I keep thinking Hannah's a Celtic name because it looks Celtic, but it's not. It's Hebrew, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Arabic. It's the technically correct pronunciation is more like Hannah, with a hard H
or something.
Yes, I am. Mr. 303 says I'm the tallest leprechaun.
So. I was going to say, I feel like invoking the boy who cried wolf when it comes to all these wars. Korea turned out to be a bullshit proxy war that we didn't need to get involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So did Vietnam, and so did everything Israel has ever done, and probably to some degree Iraq and Afghanistan. And when I say we, I mean all of the forces that got involved in all these wars, because it does include the UK every time. I know it's like the US has always been
the UK gets sucked into it because of the UN.
And so do many other countries. Like there were dozens of countries that got sucked into the Iraq war and all this shit. And I'm like, at some point there's going to be a war that actually does matter to us. And at that point we're going to be like, no, we've been burned so many times.
I hope to God there is never a war that we have to fight. I hope we never will be.
If it isn't your neighbors, if it isn't your actual neighbors or your own country being invaded, it probably has nothing to do with you, because it hasn't been.
Yeah, and Afghanistan, the Afghanistan war, that evolved out of proxy wars in Afghanistan between the U.S. and the USSR. That is fact. That is how Al-Qaeda was created. Came out of the fighting that took place during that time, and a lot of it was the two nations fighting over who was going to control that area and have their military bases in that area, whether that area was going to be capitalist or communist. And neither nation felt obligated to allow the people of the area, the country the fighting was taking place in, to make that decision for themselves. So that's our history. And yeah,
is this a good time to talk about Venezuela, or is that a different thing?
No, you can talk about that too.
This is far too early to know what the fuck's going on there, other than fucking drug smugglers. I mean, that's the story
oil
being told, and probably
and oil.
Something to do
Well,
with oil.
Yeah, it's a mess that was created by the CIA and years ago. Pretty much every conflict that we have had since World War I is a mess that was created, or its creation was influenced by the United States getting involved in World War I, and the outcome of World War I leading to ultimately to World War II. So if it doesn't trace directly back to World War I, it traces to World War II, which wouldn't have happened without World War I. And the fight, the Cold War between the so-called Cold War, because the more I learn about the Cold War, the more I realize that it was a hot war, but the heat was undercover and dispersed across several nations where the citizens of the two nations that were having the hot war with each other did not have to deal with it, and therefore kept voting for the same politicians that kept supporting the same three-letter agencies that were perpetuating all of that violence. It was quite covert, but it was not as cold at all as like Gen Xers grew up getting taught in school. At all.
All you virtue signalers who want to invent a time machine and go back in time and kill Hitler. I just want to say to anyone who does invent a time machine, your best option would be killing Woodrow Wilson.
Yes.
You have a much better option than killing Hitler. I mean, Lenin might be a better shot in general, but there are so many better targets than Hitler. If you killed Woodrow Wilson, everyone would be like, Hitler who? Because World War I would have been resolved when enough of the men were fucking killed, and there never would have been a World War II. And there probably never would have been all these other proxy wars, and there would be no Israel. So everyone would be happy.
Yeah. Yep. So what's basically going on with this website is that tracking. And they're just wanting people to see this is what's happening. This is what's being done to men in Ukraine in the name of protecting the country. And it is violent. So this started in 2023 when they started, like, the war started heating up in Ukraine, and they needed more men, they needed more bodies, basically. And so, according to human rights activists and legal experts, the methods employed by certain TCC units have in numerous instances raised legitimate questions regarding their compliance with current legislation, which means that because of the emergency, they were violating existing law. They just decided that law didn't matter. Precedents have been recorded where detentions occurred without prior verification of data in the government's mobile app for conscripts. So maybe they didn't get drafted, but they went and got them anyway, or maybe they didn't confirm their age or their status, like do they have a disability that's going to make them useless in battle and therefore exempt. But they just grabbed, like, they see a dude and he looks like he's a full-fledged adult and he's not got one foot in the grave already, not too blind to fire a gun and hit the enemy, or at least not hit his allies. They grab him and throw him in a van. The defining incident that gained widespread resonance occurred in March 2024, According to media reports, a resident of, I believe this is just pronounced Leave, was detained at a checkpoint in the, and I'm going to butcher like all of these words, in the Zakarpattia region or Patia region, after being held for several hours at the Makachivo TCC. He was reportedly transported to a border area where he was subsequently arrested by border guards on charges of attempting to illegally cross the border or to escape the country. While bussification is not a legal term, it serves as a marker of the public's reaction to the dissonance between the official rhetoric about civilized mobilization and the reality on the ground. Open source data suggests these methods have been most prevalent and again, these are, like, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing these right, but Zakarpattia or Patia, Odessa, and Chernivtsi regions. I'm better at pronouncing Polish than I am at Ukrainian. It's really bad.
Yeah, normally I'm good at these, but I'm completely lost when it comes to fucking Slavic names.
I should be better because I actually do have ancestry from there. That's not why I'm doing this, though. But yeah, so what's being explained here basically is that this is, the public's pissed off about it. It's been very controversial. They're using emergency legal powers. So we have David Lowboy says I should put extraneous Y's between all my syllables and I'll get close. That sounds about right. But and they're doing it in a manner that is not just abusive of power and of the people they're doing it to, but may be illegal, and it is involving people who may not even have been on the conscription list. Before we go on, we did get a super cow from Meredith G, who gave us $5 and said, HBR Talk 381, the thing that enrages me about Ukraine is that this proxy war where the Russian strategy is designed to maximize Ukrainian casualties, leadership had every ability to see what the Russian strategy was, but tried to blind everyone with BS propaganda to keep everyone engaged in this war. And yeah, and men died because they tried to do that. These men never had a chance, and they're outnumbered. They're being attacked by a much larger country. The only thing that's keeping them afloat is whatever determination they have to live and whatever assistance they're getting from the United States. And if the United States wasn't pushing for them to continue fighting, there would have been a surrender much earlier. There would have been an end to things much earlier, a compromise, some sort. And to be honest, after learning that Obama perpetrated that genocide to force the issue back during his administration, like I have no sympathy for anyone who suggests that they shouldn't have been allowed to just do what they were going to do, secede if they wanted to join Russia. And I know people are like, well, what if Texas wanted to join Mexico? And the reality is that Texas fought a battle to not be part of Mexico. Texas, it'd be like maybe a couple hundred years later or less, after rejoining Russia, if Crimea went, no, we want to be part of Ukraine again, after Russia had great economic success and Ukraine didn't. So your equivalence is false. It's kind of ridiculous, actually, to make that comparison, but I've had that thrown at me. They could have California, though. I wouldn't object to that.
No, they can have it.
Well, at least that they can have the government from California.
Yes.
Well,
So
California is a pretty huge economy. It's like there's only 3 countries in the world that have a larger economy than California. You don't want to lose it. Just let them roll in, change the government, and then take it back over again.
yeah, and take it back. In the meantime, though, like honestly, the best thing that could happen is more people see this website, see the violence that really is inherent in conscription, and start hamstringing their government's efforts at making war with each other over things that the people really aren't into enough to step up and say, yes, I'm willing to risk my life for that. And some of the things that people are objecting to, some of the legal issues with this, clearly they're not following. Like, if you have conscription going on in the United States, we have a lottery system. Every man over the age of 18 has to sign up, or at the age of 18 actually has to sign up for this. And there's a lottery system then when there's a war from which they choose who will be conscripted. They send you a notice, and you are expected to comply with that notice by showing up. They don't go around randomly collecting people off of the street. Now, if you don't show up, then they might send people after you. There's always that threat of violence. You will be arrested, you will be forcibly taken into the military, or you will be forcibly put into imprisonment for refusing to comply with your conscription. And similarly, if you don't sign up for the draft, there are penalties. You're not eligible for things that women and girls are eligible for, even if they aren't eligible to sign up, which to date we are not. We're not just exempt. They won't even allow it. Like, it's against the law. If I were to try to sign up, it's against the law. We're so exempt that it's verboten. So yeah, they're not following any kind of legal procedure. There's not a certainty that allows people their rights to be respected. Under Article 35 of the Constitution of Ukraine, they're guaranteed freedom of movement. So if going someplace means they might be grabbed, stuffed in a van, and taken to a conscription center, even though they were not legally conscripted prior to that means that men can't go anywhere, do anything. And then the impact of this is insane. And I want you to picture this, right? You're just going about your daily life. You're doing your normal thing. You go to do your job. You go home. Your family has dinner. You watch TV. You play video games. You maybe hang out and talk about stuff. You read books, whatever. But you got to get groceries sometime. And you go out with your wife to get groceries. And some guys show up in a van, beat you into submission, drag you into the van while your wife is screaming for them to stop, and drag you off, and you never see your family again. Like, it's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. And from her end, similarly, same background, normal family life, and all of a sudden, because she asked her husband to go out with her to maybe keep her company, carry some things, whatever. Maybe they always did the shopping together. Now he's gone forever. And she just watched him get dragged off into a van by people she didn't know after being informed that he's being conscripted. And now she doesn't know if she's ever going to see him again.
Yeah, we
Right?
talk about feminism, even though it's only been happening for 100 years. We talk about romantic chivalry, even though it's only been happening for 1,000 years. Guess how long that shit's been going on all across the world? I mean, it's for as long as history has been recorded and before.
Yeah.
It's
As long as
hard
tribes
to
have
even
attacked each other.
exactly.
Before the mechanism involved any kind of wheeled vehicle, before the wheel was invented, men have been forced to defend their tribe, their nation, their whatever system of government they had, whether it was one guy that told everyone what to do or a committee. And that's
And
like
maybe
basically just the difference between the parliamentary system and the monarchy system. One guy tells everybody what to do, or a committee.
there's a good
Mm-hmm.
reason for that. Maybe the civilizations that survived because they did that to men. Okay, maybe, but at least can we at least acknowledge that? Can we at least acknowledge that the I don't want to say oppression, but the obligations that have been put upon men completely dwarf the obligations that have ever been put on women. It would be nice if even in our modern age we can acknowledge that these things have been happening for thousands and thousands of years, and nothing even remotely similar has ever happened to women. If we could acknowledge that, so that we don't act as though men have always oppressed women and only in that direction forever. If we could get over that fucking horse shit, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, the entire history of men and masculinity has been a history of trying to make things safer for their wives and children. And after they accomplished that to a degree that women pretty much had nothing to fear as long as they took men's advice on how to comport themselves. Women decided that they were oppressed by that and enslaved and started protesting it. Really seems kind of dumb when you think about it. But yeah, as a result of this, besides the men who have been harmed or worse, there have been men killed as a result of this. There's some studies, including those in the Kiev International Institute of Sociology, indicate that approximately 43% of men aged 18 to 60 have begun limiting their social activity and avoiding public places due to fear of wrongful detention, leading to a lot of social tension and atomization. So they're staying home. They're not going out. They're not doing things. They're not spending time with each other. They're essentially living in solitary confinement. You know, if they have families living with them, they're fortunate. Men who are single probably have already been taken. But yeah, now imagine you're one of the guys in the percentage of the population that has domestic violence. You're either in the percentage that is one-way violence, and 70% of which are female perpetrated, or you're in the percentage that is two-way violence, which is still associated with more frequent violence from women, meaning women are initiating more and women are perpetrating uniquely part of the time. And you can't go anywhere because if you leave your house, you might get grabbed by a gang of military hoodlums and shoved into a van, taken off to fight on the front lines of a war you don't believe in. It's like I told you guys this was going to be an enraging show. So we're not going to get into all of this, but the violations, this is what I was looking for. So There's been documented cases of beatings during detention. There's been documented cases of traffic hazards that caused accidents that other people got hurt in. They denied people a right to lawyers after they've been detained. They've failed to notify their families where they were going and what their condition was. And they were coerced to sign documents without proper explanation of legal consequences or any kind of legal representation. Right? So they're essentially getting pressed into service through violence, intimidation, and isolation. And now we're going to there are more statistics on this page, by the way, and if you want to see this page, the link to this page is in the low bar, and you can look down here in the blue. Did it just? Yeah, it did. It just switched over to Russian. I don't want it in Russian. So you look at this blue here, the blue text. This is... Will you stop that? I may have to switch this over to Chrome, because I don't want to change my settings in Brave.
You're a Russian agent. You're being controlled by the Russians. You're in Putin's cock holster or something.
I can't read Russian. But the page we were just on, it seems like every time I hover over a link, so I'll stop doing that. The page we were just on is the one that says, "What is bussification?" And so that gives you an idea of what we're looking at when we look at this. And as we scroll down here, this is the part that really got me and made me decide that this needs to be talked about, right? These men, what has happened to them is beyond unconscionable. Like, even if you leave room for conscription to have a point and a purpose, that you say, well, governments have to be able to conscript men to fight in wars, and because reasons, and your reasons are things that you believe in, right? There is no point in beating somebody to death. They're not going to be able to do anything for you after they're dead. Dead men generally do not march, pick up guns, carry them, shoot the enemy, pilot any type of war vehicle, whether it's flying or on the ground. They don't get on a computer and direct drones. They don't do any of the support positions that are in the military. There are no dead cooks in the military. They're all alive. Once they're dead, they stop working.
And it's not like torture. I've appointed myself devil's advocate for torture, but as much as I'm against it, there is a reason for torture. It's so that you can get information out of people. But beating someone to death is not going to get information out. It's like torturing babies. This subject we keep coming back to. Like, there's no reason to torture babies ever because they can't even fucking talk. And beating a man to death, especially about the part of his body that talks, is there's no reason for that other than blind revenge or just sadism. So,
and death only works as a means of enforcing compliance if the order that you're trying to get them to comply with is to stop. Right? Stop molesting children. Well, if they're dead, they can't do that. Right? But a man who is doing normal adult citizen things, going to work, going home from work and spending time with his family, going to local businesses and spending his money there, going to his religious institution and worshiping in his own particular idiom, like whatever. You can't force compliance with conscription from him if you kill him in the process, right? You can't do that. So this is a pointless death. The government doesn't benefit, the people don't benefit, the organization doesn't benefit because they're not getting their numbers of people sent to the front up by doing this. They're just causing death. This man, held at Sarny TCC, died in the, I believe this is Rivne, maybe it's Rivnia region. According to his mother, his name has vital in it. Jeez. Vitaly, I'm going to say this is Sakirk, was taken on Thursday, August 21st. I hope I did not butcher his name. And held in the building for 3 days. On August 23rd, his relatives learned that he was in the morgue. That's all they learned. They did not find out other information. And there's 27 of these.
Wow.
Right? Another unpronounceable name. Well,
Kapushik
maybe,
Yaroslav.
yeah, a resident of the village of Horo
Horokdiono.
Kolyono, yeah. Again, detained by the TCC on June 17th, 2025, never made it to the front. On June 20, he received a traumatic brain injury from TCC employees and was in a coma for 7 weeks, after which he died on August 9th, 2025. And this goes on. There's another page every time I click on this. Another man forcibly pulled into a minibus near the entrance, died the next day. Relatives found broken head, bruises on the ribs, under the eye, and on the cheek during identification. Abducted and mobilized the 14th of June. That's the 14th of June, 2025. Died 6/7/2025. So the 6th of July. In hospital from injuries received at the training center. In the video at the training center, he could not walk, and the military joked, calling him a lizard, and said that he fell on metal rods.
Jesus.
39-year-old man. Like, in a lot of countries, you don't get drafted after a certain age. When wartime happens, they expand that. That happened in the U.S. When my dad was a senior in high school, for instance, he was not eligible for military service because his eyesight was too bad. But during the worst part of the Vietnam War, they would have taken him. His eyesight wouldn't have kept him out. So, yeah. This is another one. Died at the TCC. His mother reported his abduction on November 5th. This man had 3 hits in the head with an unknown object. Police forced him to write a refusal. I'm assuming, because when you click on these, it doesn't tell the whole story. But write a refusal for medical care, more likely than not. During this man's detention, TCC officers beat him and forcibly pushed him into a car. He survived the Russian occupation, but he's got a sick heart, which basically means he's got a heart condition that he didn't have before. But this is the first survivor. We're 7 men in, and this is the first survivor we see. Right? These are not all of the men that have been detained. These are some of the worst examples of what has happened. This one, delivered to the TCC during the examination, traces of handcuffs and physical impact were found. Look at his face. I don't know if I can get this picture to be any
Oh,
bigger,
wow.
but yeah.
Oh, my God.
This is what conscription is. Conscription is violent. Men are subjected to violence. Men are threatened with violence to force them to comply with military conscription. And even if you live in a country that thinks it's more civilized than that and sends a little notice in the mail, come to this place to be conscripted, you know, as a man, that if you don't obey the words on that little piece of paper, that you are at risk, that law enforcement or the military is going to show up at your door and take you. And if you fight, if you try to not go with them, this type of thing is what's going to happen. This is what men face. When men sign for a draft card, when men sign for any type of selective service style shopping list that the government uses to decide which men they're going to use as cannon fodder in war, they are signing up knowing that if they don't comply when they're called, somebody might do something similar to this to them. If they choose to disagree with the government as to whether or not that this war is appropriate for drafting citizens and fight back, this is what they face. Even in countries that are so civilized that they have some alternative type of service if you're anti-war. Like we have conscientious objection here in the U.S. And they'll find some other type of service that you are obligated to do, but you also have to go through a process to prove to the government that you really hold those convictions and you're not just afraid to go to war. Which a conscientious objector is, generally speaking, somebody who, for religious reasons or other limited sets of moral reasons, objects to being asked to kill people and will not do so even if a gun is put in his hands and he is sent to war. And so they created that alternative system because in terms of the military is going to consider these men useless because they won't kill people for the military. And so during the Vietnam War, they had conscientious objectors doing all kinds of different things. One of them was working in mental institutions like Ypsilanti in Michigan. And there were other people that also went. They basically put them in with groups of volunteers that were already going. My parents volunteered at Ypsilanti when they were in college. And so there were conscientious objectors on their bus when they went up there. And
part of me is thinking, is it okay to be showing this on YouTube? Should we be blurring this out? But then I'm like, well, no, it's just brutalism against men. It's just men with scars. Women love that. We should be all right. We should be fine.
Yep. So, working in an environment like that isn't for everybody. Not everybody is emotionally equipped to handle it. Not everybody's intellectually equipped to handle it, and not everybody's psychologically equipped to handle it.
And
like
thank God for
health
that.
problems, yeah, people that have mental health problems, they need a particular type that's going to understand their medical needs and still be able to understand their other human needs and treat them like human beings without becoming afraid or disgusted or weirded out or any of the myriad of things that can happen when you run into somebody whose symptoms include behavioral symptoms that make them do things that you couldn't imagine thinking of doing, or that you can't communicate with them, or other barriers to providing good care occur. So even even conscientious objectors get some sort of treatment where they try to punish them into complying with with conscription instead. It's going into that kind of caregiving is something that you do because you want to help people and you're tough enough in various ways to do that, not something that you do because the government makes you do it. It's kind of like when they make people work in church environments because they're on food stamps. In a way, it's sort of trying to take people that are non-religious and harass them into getting off of food stamps. So it's not necessarily bad, but it is still a limitation on you. You're still forced into some sort of compliance. But in this man's case, they didn't even have that option. Right? This guy, 1 minute he's walking down the street, and the next minute he's being beaten for, not complying with conscription, whether he was conscripted or not. Shoved into a van and taken someplace to be forced into service. This is another one. Died a few days later after a head injury. Right? Detained by the TCC, died in a hospital a few days later after head surgery. Which means he had an injury so bad that he had a surgery for it. This guy being beaten in a military unit, died in hospital. He was 2 years older than I am. I can't imagine at my age trying to get in shape for military service. Another one, passed the medical commission, died in a psychiatric hospital. Detained by the TCC, beaten and found on the roadside. This one blew my mind when I read it, and I did go through and read these before. It just, why would they leave him on the roadside? I could see, sort of understand if he was injured in the process of being taken into custody, but you would think they would retain custody, or if they were going to abandon custody, they would take him to a hospital. They literally just dumped him out on the side of the road when they saw that he wasn't going to be useful to them. As of September 2, he was in intensive care, and nothing else is reported on him. Right. Another 49 years old, brought unconscious from TCC to the hospital where he died. This one died from a head injury after he was taken by the TCC to... they have various territorial centers in various cities. So he was taken to a particular territorial center for the selection and social support. I guess social support means getting beaten in the head. I didn't just skip guy, did I? Nope. Okay. We don't even have a picture here. Detained by the TCC, died the next day. His sister reported the abduction and death. Detained by the TCC and then disappeared. Family did not find him. Again, the military lost this man in the process of pressing him into service. They just misplaced him. Nobody knows where he is. And that was in 2023. So it's been a while.
They know where the women are, by the way.
Yep.
I can't help remembering several articles by, I don't know if it was UN Women or the likes of UN Women, who keep giving us these articles about how Ukrainian women are the true victims of war. They're doing the Hillary Clinton thing, but the Ukrainian women are, refugees in various other countries, like living it up in the hotels or fucking whatever. And we're only hearing about all these stories here on Honey Badger live streams, while the general public is being told about how war is hell for women. Meanwhile, this shit's going on, and yeah, it's not even about men being conscripted. It's about the fucking Ukrainian government going around beating the shit out of men for no reason and leaving them for dead for no reason. Like, never mind war is hell. This isn't even war. This is just the government using war as an excuse to torture and beat men to death. Like, war's not the problem. I'm going to go ahead and say misandry is the problem. It kind of looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. These men are straight up murdered. There is no... There's no excusing this. None. Like, I don't even care that they use the word emergency. There is no such thing as an emergency that merits rounding men up and beating them to death in the hopes that some of them will still be useful enough after you have beaten them to actually use them in your war. Because you're essentially creating more war casualties before you even send the men out. And the men you're sending out are also going to become war casualties. This is insane. This is when people ran around wearing like baby blue and piss yellow in support of Ukraine. This is what they were supporting. Man who can't even be pictured. We don't even have a picture of him. Was taken by the military and then found hanged on the TCC premises. Like, he didn't go to war. He didn't do anything that the military could say, oh, gosh, we really benefited from grabbing this guy on the street and dragging him to the TCC. No. He died by what might have been a suicide or what might have been an execution. So either they drove him to suicide or they just directly killed him themselves. This one was transferred to military units, found dead on 22/10/2024, so October 22nd last year. This is a picture of him in his coffin. This is, this is the one that this just threw me. Like, there were the coffin pictures. Like, it's, I don't even know how to describe how that just hits. Like, this is somebody's son and probably somebody's brother. Probably could be somebody's dad, somebody's friend. And this is where he is now. He gets grabbed off the street when he's out with a family member or out doing something for his family, and the next time they see him is in this coffin.
At least it looks peaceful. That's a dark thing to say, I know, but
yeah.
Think of all the images we're not being shown. We even get shown the pictures of the men after their heads have been stitched up and stuff, but
like this man.
like this man, but at least we didn't have to see what he looked like before he was stitched up, and at least we didn't have to look at all the men who did not have images that could be shown, and we can thank our lucky stars we didn't have to look at those images. You weren't wrong, Hannah. This is fucking dark. This is much darker than we usually get.
I've had to go through and desensitize myself to this so that I could talk to you guys about it without crying. All these men, I like I said at the beginning, the first thing that went through my mind was that image. You're just going about your business. You go out to do something normal that you would do any other day. And all of a sudden, a van full of men grab you off the street and shove you into the van, and you never see your family again. You're off to be beaten to death or forced into a war where you might be killed. And it just blows my mind. I can't... I've always been angry about conscription. I've always felt that it was slavery. I've always felt that it was wrong. And I've always felt that people should be much more outraged by it than they are. But seeing it like this just kills me inside. These are human beings that are being treated this way. Human beings are being stolen off the street and beaten to death for refusing to go face death so that a government can retain territory that the people living in it didn't want the government to retain.
And presumably this can only possibly work as a deterrent, so that they can show other men who might wish to abstain from conscription, so that they can show these photos to these men and say, this is what we're going to do to you if you don't join the army, the fight. Is that what they're doing, or are they just not bothering to? Because then it wouldn't act as a deterrent. I get the feeling that they're just going from man to man, not even showing them these photos as incentive. They're just going, join the army. Oh, you're not going to join the army? Bosh. We're going to fuck your face up and kill you. Like, that's probably what's going on. It's probably that level of madness.
Well, there is the fact that people in Ukraine know this is happening. It is a known factor for men that if they go places and do things, this can happen to them. And like we said earlier, it's caused 43% of them to limit their movement. Right, limit their movement around. So they're clearly reacting to it. They're reacting by trying to hide from it. I mean, imagine being afraid to go outside because of this, when you are supposed to be your family's breadwinner. And then if you do manage to hide long enough, they come and get you from your house. This man was convicted as a draft evader and was killed for it on August 17th of last year. So they executed him for evading the draft. There's another man, 32 years old, died from epilepsy, meaning he shouldn't have been there in the first place because he had a condition that usually the military doesn't want you if you have that condition. And they took him, and when people die from epilepsy, it's usually something happens to them during a seizure. This one got me too. I'm like, the minute I saw his picture and his smile, I knew this is not somebody that should have been picked up, even if they weren't doing this and they were just taking them in for processing and such. This guy was 26 years old, childhood disabled. And I believe I know what type of disability died in TCC.
We already heard that stuff about how they were even taking Down syndrome or just retarded men in general. He doesn't look very Downs, but I mean, it could be anything. What are you thinking it is?
I'm thinking that he has some degree of intellectual disability. Because you can see here, he's not in a wheelchair, he's standing. And there's a particular childlike smile that you don't usually see in an adult. And it has that little open mouth and the, upturned. There's some adults that smile like that, but not as many. And it's just, this is one that really hit too, because it wasn't too long ago I had one of the people in my care was talking to his mom, and I learned that she had to deal with selective service, and being so intellectually disabled that you need someone else to take care of you during your entire life doesn't mean that you don't have to sign up for selective service in the United States. Being in a wheelchair doesn't mean that you don't have to sign up for selective service in the United States. Missing a limb doesn't mean that you don't have to sign up for selective service in the United States. You still have to sign up. They will determine if they draft you, whether they can use you or not. And I'm wording that way on purpose, because it's, in that instance, being deemed incapable of consenting to sign a contract on your own, or get married, or have sex with another person consensually. Being too intellectually disabled to do those things does not stop you from having to sign up for selective service. But being a perfectly able-bodied, able-minded, mentally healthy female does. And so governments get away with doing shit like this, specifically because they are not doing it to women. Another 47-year-old disappeared from military unit, found dead with signs of violence. Kidney failure due to injuries received in the TCC. Numerous bruises on his body, frostbitten limbs, and bilateral pneumonia, which means they beat the hell out of him and then shoved him out in the cold or kept him in a cold room. Frostbitten only happens when you're exposed to extreme cold, or you're exposed to severe cold for a long time. And if pneumonia happens as a result, it means that you are in an environment where you were breathing extreme cold, or you are in cold water. What the hell they did to this man? Kidney failure due to injuries usually means getting beaten from behind. This one is a student on his way to a village near the border. The authorities hid his death for 2 weeks. Wow. This one died in the hospital from injuries received at the TCC. This one was pulled out of a car and brutally beaten by the TCC. We're going to look at his face because it's particularly bad too. Fracture of the medial and lower walls of the right orbit, that's the eye socket. Fracture of the nose bones. This is not a young man. This man has more gray hair than I do. Probably older than me.
A couple of entries ago, there was a 47-year-old guy. Like,
this guy's probably older 50s.
Yeah.
Or early 60s. This guy is primarily qualified as intentional light bodily injury. This is this brutally beaten man. Light bodily injury.
Oh my God.
He's got blood in his eyes. That's blood in his conjunctiva.
And it's lasted longer than the rest of his bruises had. Presumably his face was raw purple shortly afterwards, and this is him like months later, still with blood in his eye.
These are old bruises, yeah.
Probably blind in at least one eye. Close to it.
It's a distinct possibility with injuries like that. I mean, again, this is for nothing because once they do stuff like this to a man, he's not going to be able to serve. They're not doing this to get him to serve at this point. They're doing it to punish him for refusing.
And this is what we were paying for, by the way. I have to... Oh, this...
Yeah.
I lost so many friends over the feminism thing, and then I lost a bunch more friends over the COVID thing. And then the few that we had left when the fucking Ukraine thing started, like, some of them were like, no, we have to send our tax money to the effort in Ukraine. This time we're not getting it wrong. This time we're not just following a bunch of lies that are gonna cripple people and kill them and exact untold, indescribable fucking pain on people. And I hope some of those people are watching this right now. Because I don't want to see this, but I want you to see this. Like the few of you who somehow still thought that our government was telling the truth when they told you, no, we have to send these billions to Ukraine because they're doing good things. This is what they were doing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what they were spending that money on. They were giving it to, I don't want to say Nazis, but some of them were, giving it to these fucking roving bands of thugs who were going around beating the shit and killing completely innocent men for not signing up for death. Like, are any of you watching? Are any of you listening? Can any of you respond to me? Can any of you carry on with this narrative that no, we had to do this because otherwise Russia would have done what they did in the end anyway? Yeah, like, oh. Yeah, no.
Richard Bier gave us $5 and said, I wonder why, or wonder how many of these conscripts happen to be ethnically Russian and are seen as untrustworthy or a potential enemy of Ukraine, and therefore if they die, then it is one less enemy to fight. Eventually the recruiters can be sent to the front lines where their brutality will actually be useful. And that's a distinct possibility. There's a significant percentage of the Ukrainian population that is ethnically Russian. So yeah, it's very, very possible. And in fact, the voters in Crimea that voted to secede from Ukraine and join Russia during the Obama administration, who were then murdered by thugs hired by Obama's CIA. They were ethnically Russian. So, and then they weren't necessarily killed because of their ethnicity, but in a way they were. Right? They were killed because they wanted to return to Russia. Obviously, the USSR wasn't going to come back, but their choice, right? And then that happened. So this is a video of how this kidnapping happens, and I don't know if I can get this. There we go, smaller here. I guess those are my two choices. You don't see the whole video, or you see it small.
Що ви робите? Оце я все виставлю.
Let's see. We'll go back to, because you can see this up close. They literally have a hold of this man and are pulling on him and forcefully engaging with him, detaining him. And I don't know if this is a neighbor or a partner, because I can't understand the language being used, but this site has so many of these videos. It's just video after video after video of men being grabbed off the street, forced into cars. In some of them, you can see the women trying to fight to stop the abduction.
Подивися, що робиш, блядь, що ти робиш, суки? Що ви робите, блядь, ви? Є мужики.
There's one that's just arguing. I wish American women would stand up at least that much for their men.
Yeah. Right.
By the way. But, and this is over and over again, people being literally, like, this is just, they're downtown, they're out shopping, they're out at night. One guy was being taken from his house. And you can see it from a distance. This guy's being taken off the street. This guy, they're chasing a man down.
Oh my God.
That one's not going to play for me. As some of these are bigger than they seem. If I can get a better sized view of it. And they're just grabbing him and shoving him into a van as he fights to not go. And the men that we saw pictures of that were beaten were taken like this.
One has to wonder if, the men who are rounding these other men up, if the same thing didn't happen to them.
Yeah.
And they were just, deprogrammed and desensitized to what happened to them.
Or they're doing this so they don't have to go to the front lines themselves.
Right, exactly.
It happens generationally. Remember Coney 2012?
Yes.
Everyone's so up in arms that that these children are being conscripted into these pointless wars by being abducted. Yeah, well, yeah, that is how war works. That's how it happens generationally. These so-called child soldiers and not so-called. It's just in some countries it happens when they're children, and in some countries it happens to happen whenever the fucking Western military industrial complex is ready and willing to do it to your people. And even if they're 47, even if they're in their 60s, and even if, holy shit, it just occurred to me. How young are they doing this to Ukrainian boys?
Mhm.
They're grabbing people based on appearance. If they appear to be old enough to be conscripted, they're taking them. I went to school with boys whose appearance ranged from looking 2 or 3 years younger than they really were to up to 10 years older than they really were. And one of my classmates, we started out together in the 7th grade, or in the 8th grade. Both of us at the beginning of the school year were 5'6", and at the end of the school year, I was 5'7", and he was 6 feet tall. He was 6'4" when he graduated high school, and he looked like a young man, like military age young man, by the time he was 14. So they would have grabbed him, and it looks like from what we read, they were not verifying age very well. So he could have, as an 8th grader, been sent to war. Grabbed off the street and sent to war. Imagine sending your kid to the store, like, go get a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk, and you just never see him again, and they don't tell you what happened. He's just gone. And you know that this might have happened to him, but nobody will tell you.
It's horrible.
And this is the real nature of conscription, is forcing men against their will. Not caring whether you get men who are maybe over the age or under the age of conscription, as long as they look the right age. They're grabbing people on the street based on looks. And if they're not verifying that they are of age, as we saw in the text earlier in the show, they are not going through a vetting process, a verification process. When they do this, then it is very possible that they could have sent kids that young, that they just looked like adults to them. You know, my childhood friend, when he graduated from high school, he did join the Marines. But that was as an adult, and it was his choice. He wasn't grabbed off the street and shoved into a van and sent into a war without any representation by an attorney or any other vetting of him or anything. He went through a process. They had to confirm that he was fit to serve and everything. But still not something, you know, that I would recommend necessarily to young men. But some will. If you get into arguments with people online about men's issues and feminist issues, and you have feminists telling you that conscription is nothing, you remember this website, busification.org. Show them this is what conscription is. And you can show them this episode and my explanation. The reason I'm showing this is something that people would call an extreme version, right? But what's the difference, really, between being kidnapped and sent to a center like that, where you're roughed up and maybe beaten to death, or being kidnapped and sent to a military prison where you're roughed up and maybe beaten to death. You're still roughed up, kidnapped, roughed up, and beaten to death. The result is the same. Right? And of course, what's the difference between being grabbed off the street like that and sent to war and being forced to comply with a draft notice? You're still being taken against your will.
Mm-hmm.
And the threat is that they will come and get you if you don't comply. Conscription is violent. And when women argue that it's no big deal and men are suited for it and women aren't, and therefore it's not inequality, it's biology and blah blah blah. What they're essentially arguing is that it's okay to do this to you against your will because you have greater upper body strength than women do. David Lavoie has it quite right. The difference is the false moral theories of statism. We're doing it for the good of the society, right? We're doing it for your country. And yeah, war is violent, conscription is violent. Having to sign up for the draft is the first stage of conscription. Just the same as writing your shopping list is the first stage of going to the store. These guys didn't write a list. They just went in and started grabbing people. Men. And probably some boys. Contrary to people citing what the law is, because they ignored the law. And this goes on and on. Like, these videos, there are so many of them. It just keeps going and going. And like, when it gets to the bottom, when the little scroll bar gets to the bottom, it jumps back up because there are more videos. And they're just everywhere. Some of them are from the same day. There's another. He's trying to stop them. They have beaten this guy already. He's on the ground. You can see right there he is on the ground. This is trying to drag a guy. They've literally picked him up off the ground.
God.
It's just...
Что происходит?
It is a heartbreaking situation. Like, and this is just what the men there had to deal with. So my reason for showing this... Oh, go ahead.
This is what's going to happen to us in the UK and in the rest of Northwest Europe. We're not going to get conscripted into a battle against the countries that are actually invading us. And there's fucking hundreds of them. Well, there's only 200 countries, but there's fucking dozens of countries that are invading us. And we're not going to get conscripted to perhaps stand at the borders of our country and divert the fucking boats. We're not going to get conscripted to send away the people who are actually stabbing us and raping us. We're gonna get what these Ukrainian men got. We're just gonna have thugs just roaming across the country, beating the shit out of us because Russia.
Yeah,
it's this revelation has only just occurred to me. Like we thought the worst thing that could happen was these various foreigners roaming across the country and raping our women. Heavens to Betsy! But yeah, this is going to come to us. This fucking threat narrative against Russia is going to result in us just getting the shit beaten out of us in the street by our own government and the thugs and goons that have been employed to beat the shit out of us, while our women are getting raped in the street. I half laugh there because it's all I can do. But good Lord, that's what's going to happen. Sorry, carry on with what you were going to say, Hannah.
No, you're right. This is all across Europe. Men are under risk of this because the mass migration is happening. The illegal mass migration is happening all across Europe. Everywhere that the government is helping another country invade your nation quietly and slowly, under cover of being labeled something that they're not when they come in. That's it. It won't be conscription per se. It won't be the military coming to you and saying, we need you to fight and you're going to do it. It'll be the violence coming to you, and the only way to deal with it is going to be to roll over or fight back. This man, Mr. 303, said he's begging for help. That was the voice that you just heard in this video. Let me see if I can go back to...
Что происходит? Помогите, пожалуйста.
That's a man begging for help because he's being kidnapped by the military to be forced into war. So, the reason that I'm showing you this is because I want you to be mad. I want you to be enraged. I want you to consider this. Think about this when you are in debate on social media, when you are listening to people talk about it on television, when you're voting for politicians, when you're hearing the news of how the Supreme Court is handling the National Coalition for Men's lawsuit to degender the draft, in the hopes that if women are getting drafted, that the draft will simply become politically inexpedient for the government, and they'll eliminate it. When you're looking at who you think is okay to put in a position of responsibility for your country, that you're going to afford authority to in order to meet those responsibilities, knowing that they could initiate a war and that they could make decisions that lead to conscription in your country. Think about that man. Think about the man with the stitches. Think about the man in the coffin. Think about the man who disappeared. About the fact that there were boys abducted in this manner who probably weren't old enough to go into the military and got conscripted anyway. Men who were so old that they had far more salt and pepper in their hair. Men who were beaten for resisting conscription. And let that fuel your responses. Not to the degree that you become incoherent or incapable of arguing from rage rather than from logic, but to the degree that you have a fire lit under your butt. Which, by the way, is kind of a misandric reference in and of itself, if you know what it's from. But get inspired to not back down, to recognize that it is misandric to argue that having to sign up and agree that you could be conscripted is okay. It's not. Having to sign up and agree that you can be conscripted is not okay. Having to sign up when women don't have to sign up is not okay. Yeah. Being told that you're a coward who wouldn't defend your country because you won't sign a piece of paper that says your government can send you anywhere in the world to fight any war in the world for any reason they decide against your will is unreasonable. Being told that you're a coward who doesn't care about your friends and neighbors because you disagree that your government should impose conscription when you don't agree with what they're doing. Like that's bullshit. Nobody with good intentions tells you that. Don't let people guilt trip. Don't let people Mott Bailey you into agreeing to this. This needs to be something that goes through the population like wildfire. Every person you know should be pissed off about this. Find the link in the low bar and show people this site. This is what conscription looks like. When a nation decides that it's desperate for cannon fodder, this is what conscription looks like. This is how my first ancestor on my dad's side of the family was brought to America. This is what he was lucky to survive to get here. During a time period when if he had gotten any kind of infection in any one of the cuts and bruises, he would have died from sepsis. So this is what people need to see.
And bear in mind, Russia just wanted the Crimea and the Donbass region. They just wanted those areas of southeast Ukraine that were already populated by ethnic Russians. Like they would have been happy getting that without any casualties.
Yeah.
These men experienced this not because of Russia, but because of the billions that were pumped into their country by us.
Yep.
By the UK and the US and the taxes that were stolen from us to fund this barbarism. Like, I'm not talking surrender, but if there was some kind of compromise reached 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was, this whole thing could have been spared. Like, to some degree, this was Russia's fault. And I don't want to talk percentages, but to an unspeakably large degree, this was the fault of our own governments. They funded this. Yeah. They made this happen.
There's another thing that people need to consider as well.
And they didn't achieve anything, by the way. Russia is still going to take over Crimea and the Donbass and all that. All it achieved was the fucking horror that we witnessed in this show. That's all it did.
And I'm not even showing you the war. I'm just showing you what the Russian government did to get men to go to war who didn't want to. There's another thing to consider here, though. Russia didn't do this during the first Trump administration, right? They waited until there was a weakling in office. They waited until there was a senile old man who had, 2 brain cells left in his head, and they were waving goodbye to each other before they invaded.
And he happened to have close ties to the Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
By the way.
Whose corruption had a major effect, and he was vice president during the administration. He was part of the administration that genocided Russian nationals in Crimea. So, none of this all comes full circle. None of this is independent of the rest of it. If the Ukrainian government had not been able to force this on men, then they would not have affected so many of them. It would have been over. The result would have been little or no difference, aside from the fact that a lot of men are dead trying to defend against it. I told you at the beginning that this would be rage bait. But you gotta understand, when we're talking about conscription, when I call conscription violence, this is what I'm talking about. Force is always the ultimate threat that is used to enforce it.
And this is all going to get memory hold, by the way.
Yep.
The mass media is not going to show anyone this. God, no. It's all going to fall into the memory hole. There's similar losses in every fucking proxy war that we were snuck into with all these fucking lies. And the same thing will happen in the next war, and the war after that. and it's
every war.
It's going to keep happening because these wars are driven by misandry, and they are only allowed to happen because of misandry. Because they're not even wars; they're just exercises in throwing men into the meat grinder, just to appease the sadism of. It's not even to do with territories. Like I said, the territories were already going to change. They were already bound to change.
Yeah,
But
no,
if people can steal money from taxpayers so they can beat the shit out of men and kill them, they'll do it because that's what they get off on. That's all they get off on.
well, and also it's the avoidance of the truth of the situation, right? If you convince people that there is some kind of altruistic reason that we're doing these things, then that's all they'll believe. And if they never see the actual horrors of what war actually looks like, then of course it's pick a side. I'm on team good. I'm on team more good, right? Because I'm more morally good than these guys.
Both sides
And
are
that's
always the good guys to somebody, and both sides are
exactly,
always the bad guys to somebody. And it's never
exactly.
that black and white in real life.
Ever, ever, ever. And what happens in the wake of all that is the piles of bodies that lay in waste, right? Which are typically the men. Because you don't see them dragging these women into these vans. No, that's not going to happen. It's the men that essentially get are the casualties of war.
Yep.
Sick.
Yep. Every single one of those men is another man's son.
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective, every single one of those men is some mother's son too.
Yeah.
If somebody did that to my son, I don't think I'd want to live anymore.
Or there would be hellfire.
Yeah.
Rain down
If I
upon
couldn't
someone.
stop it, I don't know if I could live with being unable to stop it.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely, I would tear down the walls. There would be bodies underneath me if they did something like that to my husband or my son or my brother even, or my nephew.
Yeah. And this is why, like I said, people need to see what it really means to use force to impose compliance on men, to send them to war when they don't believe in that war and they don't want to fight in it. Yeah. And again, I know there's going to be people in the comments, you're mischaracterizing the Ukrainian war, blah, blah, blah. No. There's a lot of people that have been brainwashed into thinking that this was some black and white heroism, little country against big country, the Kamala Harris version of the Russia-Ukrainian conflict. And it is definitely significantly more complicated. Just the fact that at one point there was a vote and a portion of Ukraine literally voted to secede and join Russia without being under military threat. That tells you right there, it's not as our government here in the United States and our military here, or our media here in the United States has been telling you. The line that you've been getting is bullshit. Our nation, the United States, is guilty of a genocide. We may not have sent our soldiers to do it, but having the CIA pay thugs from some other country to go in and do it isn't any better. It's still genocide.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still our tax dollars that funded that. It's still our politicians that initiated that. That was the Obama administration. And I don't even remember how many people I read died in that.
But right now they're pissed off about a boat full of Venezuelan poison traffickers getting killed, so that they don't poison 1 million Americans. That's far more important than the trifling shit we've been talking about in this show. Good Lord.
I don't want us to be bombing anybody. I don't want us to send men and boys to shoot anybody. I don't want any of that.
No.
The best way to fight the drug war is to compete with it in a way that the cartels can't win. If people really want to have that stuff, then fine, manufacture it and sell it in the United States. Undercut them and make it so difficult for them to compete that they cease to try, and then tax the shit out of it and designate every red cent of those taxes to go into a program to treat addicts so that they will be able to overcome their addiction.
Yeah, I mean, well, making things illegal has never stopped anyone from getting those things if they want them.
Yeah.
So
and that would just be the paying for their treatment up front.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're ready to go get it, they've paid for it in taxes.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know how, because anytime you put something like that into the government's hands, they will find a way to just usurp it. Like, so I love weed. I love weed. Say what you want to say about me. I don't care. I fucking love weed. I will never ever buy weed from a dispensary that is regulated by the government, because they are what they are doing is modifying the product. And
it's quite possible.
Oh no, it is what's happening. And I just don't trust the government in anything. I don't trust the government with my food.
I know the
So,
FDA hasn't done a very good job of being honest about your food. Um,
no, I mean,
but yeah, just the fact though that most of the expense associated with drugs, illegal drugs in the United States, is created by the illegality.
right, correct.
In particular, like
The fact that there's fentanyl in so many drugs is because they're illegal. It's because people have to resort to illegal drugs, and so many of those illegal drugs have been laced with fentanyl for reasons I can't quite fathom. I guess it's because they get them from cartels, and somewhere along the lines, those cartels have just been padding them out. Well, not even padding them out, because fentanyl is a very tiny drug. It doesn't pad them out at all. It just, I don't know. There's some nefariousness going on. But if people could have their drugs tested for whatever else is in them, which they don't do when they're getting it illegally, because these people are desperate for drugs. And
well, and also, where could you go to get the testing done?
well, you can get
It's an illegal substance, right?
You can get
If it's
test
illegal,
kits, like off the internet and stuff. There's nothing illegal about test kits. I mean, I'm sure they track you, but they,
well, can you test the drugs with a test kit?
yes.
Okay, I was gonna say because I think most people probably don't know that.
No,
But
and they don't, and they don't care, and they can't afford it. All they
right,
can afford
Yeah,
but
is
if
the
it
drug.
was legal, then it'd be a different story. You know, there'd be just
There'd be
like
someone to sue if it was legal. You
right,
yeah,
know,
just like with the legalization of prostitution. It's with prostitution's illegal. Somebody that's forced into it may be afraid to seek help to get out of it. Um, as opposed to somebody who's in it voluntarily, they don't need to seek help to get out of it. But when it's legalized, if someone's forced into it, they don't have to fear that they're going to get arrested for seeking help to get out of it. And the same thing is true. I don't know if people realize there are numerous people in the drug trade in the United States who did not enter that trade voluntarily. They were made into drug mules and drug carriers, young drug dealers in their early teen years by older kids or young adults in gangs in their neighborhoods. They essentially got drafted by their neighborhood gangs.
yeah.
And it's if you don't participate, if you decide that you're not going to be a part of that, they don't just say, "Oh, okay, well, we'll leave you alone since you
See you
don't want to
later.
join up. See you later, dude. You go have fun being functional and shit." No, they shoot you, or they
Yes,
do a drive-by shooting on your house, and they accidentally kill your 5-year-old little
your whole
brother,
family.
sister,
Yep.
your whole
Hmm.
family, your grandma, your grandpa, your dog, like, or they follow you around and threaten you over and over again until you join. They're not.
what we need.
There's no innocence in that. But if you have a system where selling the substance is not illegal, buying the substance is not illegal, possessing the substance is not illegal, it's a lot harder for somebody to do that to you because you can go to the cops and say, I don't want to be part of this, but this person is trying to force me, because that's still illegal. And you won't get busted for carrying it. You won't get busted for having been forced into it once or using it once or anything like that, because that part's not illegal.
What we need is for drugs to be sold privately, so that the government's not involved in that particular aspect. Maybe we can let the government arrest private vendors for selling shitty drugs, or indeed laced drugs. That's how we get over it. Like the fact that drugs are illegal just means everyone's taking drugs laced with fentanyl.
If they're going to
And
arrest somebody, they should arrest the people selling the red food coloring. That shit's nasty.
well,
Yeah.
that's a minor example of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can't let the government be in charge of all the drugs because, like Lauren said, they'll fill it with all kinds of weird shit as well that they don't have to put in the ingredients list, and that'll probably include fentanyl as well. We should let private companies distribute these things, and if the government wants to get involved, they can prosecute people for putting fentanyl in their drugs.
Well,
But
hell, they
that's
wouldn't even have to worry. Like, if this stuff, if it all became legal and you didn't have to have a license, you didn't have to do any of that. The poppy that all forms of opiates, including fentanyl, comes from, can be grown in the U.S. Marijuana is called weed because it literally started out as a weed.
It was,
It is
yeah.
a weed. Yeah, obviously, it's been cultivated. It's been genetically altered the same way as genetically
isn't it,
modified, the
isn't
same
this the
way as all
difference?
heirloom vegetables have.
Isn't this the difference between an opiate and an opioid? Opiates are made from poppies, but opioids are synthesized in a laboratory.
Versions of poppy, and the interesting thing is, if you have an allergy to the poppy, it's possible to have an allergy to the natural derivatives of it, like codeine and morphine. I'm assuming the others that are natural derivatives, opium, heroin, but the synthetics, trying to remember the one, Vicodin, for instance, might not have the same effect because they don't have the plant or the thing you're allergic to from the plant. I don't know. I can't even eat poppy seeds I get itchy from poppy seeds. And that's not even the same poppy. But I also, the medicines, like I've had surgeries and they've prescribed codeine for me, and we learned that that's not a good thing. And just say, like, I'm not going to go into anaphylactic shock from it. You couldn't assassinate me with codeine, but you could give me a really bad night, and I would have to go to the hospital and get medication for hives. It would suck, right?
Yeah, there's a compromise to everything. Like there are some depressants that the general public can be trusted with, such as alcohol. We've trusted the general public with alcohol for millennia, and yes, they fuck themselves up sometimes, but we're still going to trust them not to do that. There are some stimulants that we will allow the general public, like caffeine. I can't think of many others, but maybe we could extend it to speed. I mean, because it's well, there are all kinds of speed that are prescribed, like fucking Ritalin and Ozempic. Like, there's all manner of drugs that are just speed that are given a different fucking name. And maybe there are some psychedelics that we can allow the public to prescribe to themselves. Can we start with weed, people? Like,
Yeah, I think honestly, if
the smallest possible psychedelic, and I think God bless so many American states for at least going that far. I'm willing to reach that compromise. We don't have to make acid legal, but can we make weed legal, and maybe even mushrooms? I mean, that'll fuck
if
people up
some
as
of
well.
that stuff was legal, I think a lot of people would just not bother with the other stuff.
No, yeah, teenagers in the Netherlands, right? They don't tend to smoke weed. Because it's considered something that old people do. So they're well, I'm allowed to do it, and it's something old people do. So I'm not particularly interested. Like there are two kinds of people who take illegal drugs: people who take them because they're drugs, and people who take them because they're illegal.
Correct.
Teenagers take drugs because they're illegal, because they're not allowed to do it, because they have this rebellious streak. If they weren't illegal, such as in the Netherlands, they wouldn't take them as much. It's like swear words. When you make them taboo, people want to say them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But in any case, like all of this, just think of the contrast between these two subjects, right? Here we have a government that just cares so much about human life that they won't even let you use drugs that are relatively harmless in comparison to some of the stuff that is legal. I've seen more people personally witnessed more people ruin their lives with alcohol than with. I've never met a person that has ruined their life just on the basis of having smoked weed or used weed in any of the various ways they have. But I have personally known people that have ruined their lives with alcohol. And alcohol is legal.
We have to
Right.
consider per capita here, by the way.
Yeah,
There are far more people drinking alcohol than smoking
than
weed
using weed. But at the
because
same time,
it's legal.
I think a part of it is the difference in the way that the two are treated. Like people, I don't see very many people talking about like binging the way that parties are. I don't know if you've ever seen how it's done in the U.S. I know Europeans don't have quite the same attitude toward alcohol that we have here. You know, it's not verboten. It's not impolite to use it. It's not. There's not a time of day that's inappropriate for having some. There are circumstances everywhere that it's inappropriate for having some because you have to be somber and sober and all that. But like I've actually been castigated by other Americans for having a non-alcoholic beer because it's too early in the day to have a drink that does not have alcohol in it, but is named after a drink that has alcohol in it because some weird morality shit, right?
Well, but you're right, and the way that we treat alcohol. I mean, think about it. I don't know how many bars you've been to, but there's not many that don't also have parking lots
Yep.
in them. So the whole drink and drive thing is like, what,
How did you get to the bar? How are you going to get
how
home? Yeah.
exactly, you know,
Right.
but
So we have a lot of dysfunction around that. And then
yes.
as a result, because it is verboten, you know, those people who do a drug because it's illegal, like I grew up in an area where it wasn't abnormal for people underage to drink. But then, you know, when you hit 21, even if you've been a drinker up until then, it's like, oh, I can drink legally now. And there's an actual tradition of 21-year-olds going out and getting completely slammed,
Hmm.
just completely blasted on alcohol. And there's in some of the counties around the county that I grew up in, there's a tradition. Brides and grooms, when they're getting married, they have their wedding at the church, and then they go bar hopping for an hour while their guests have hors d'oeuvres and an open bar at the reception, and then they show up at the wedding or at the reception and have a big entrance and stuff like that. And they're already drunk before they start drinking at the
Hmm.
bar, and there's always a bar at the reception. There's always alcohol at wedding receptions, and there's always people that they don't just enjoy a few drinks. They get so drunk that they can't stand up by themselves,
Hmm.
and they can't. And it is a binge thing. And then the next day they feel like shit because they don't drink like that all the time. Whereas, like most of the people that I've known that smoke pot will share a joint with other people to have an amount that, excuse me, you know, they'll get stoned, but they don't seem to put themselves into any like comatose kind of state with it. They just get extremely relaxed or extremely silly. Except one gal I know that gets extremely angry for some reason on it and doesn't smoke it because of that. And then the next day they don't feel like somebody beat them over the head with a 20-pound sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Um, and their liver's not damaged and their kidneys aren't damaged and you know they're not They haven't done anything illegal. They probably didn't leave the house.
Yeah. Maybe
so-
embarrassing, but not illegal.
Yeah, Angry Girl grabbed all the supplies, the drugs, and the snacks, and took
Yes.
them into another room and locked everybody else out and said, "These are mine. Nobody's touching it." So nobody got. They all had a little bit. No, they all got the munchies, and then nobody got to eat.
Right.
So yeah, but yeah, contrast that, right? The government's like, "Oh, this is too big and scary. You might get silly one night." With, they care about you so much they have to stop you from maybe damaging a few brain cells and not having the best possible life you could have.
Yeah.
But then they will do this if you're a man. If you're a man, they will send a team of people to beat you into submission to force you to comply with a system that will send you to the front line of a war where people from another country are going to shoot at you.
Yeah.
It'd be much better off if they just gave them LSD and tried to convince them to join the war.
Or convince them that they were at war and let them, have some sort of online combat with each other, and the winning side agrees that or the losing side agrees that the winning side won if you don't please attack us in real life, because we don't want to go through that for real.
I'm not actually promoting what was essentially the MK Ultra scheme, by the way. I was joking.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
That's what MK Ultra was.
That and a few other things. MK Ultra was pretty horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny to talk about it in the past tense like it ever ended.
Right.
It didn't.
Right.
It's still going on.
Yes.
But yeah. So that's essentially that's what I wanted. I wanted you guys listening to have some ammo, consider what's being done here and what conscription really is in every nation. Using force to impose compliance on men who don't support a war enough, who aren't motivated to fight in it, who maybe don't support the cause behind it, to sacrifice their lives.
And to reiterate, in many of these cases, it had nothing to do with compliance. It was just revenge against people who wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Punishment. Right. And how that punishment is done ranges from country to country, but there's always something. And it always starts with, we will use violence to force your compliance. So conscription, and I somebody in the chat earlier said war is violent. Well, yes, war is violent, and therefore conscription is violent.
Yep.
The only limiter that can effectively stop your government from waging war wrongfully against other countries is your government not being able to force you to comply with conscription. If they can't convince enough of the public that the war is worth fighting, especially when it's in a foreign country, then they shouldn't be sending the public to fight the war.
Agreed.
And in terms of Ukraine, when the population that the soldiers are going to defend has already said, no, actually, we want to join the country that's attacking. We don't want to be part of the country that's defending us. Then perhaps, especially with the public having to be forced into that war, the government should not have that power. And certainly, another government across the ocean should not be lending its power to that government to force that compliance.
No.
As our nation did. So yeah. And all, I'm glad that it's over, but I do want you to be perpetually vigilant against this. And I want people to, when you get into arguments with people, I want you to show them this. I want you to talk about this. I want you to point out this is what men are faced with. When we talk about selective service and conscription, and you say, oh, there isn't a draft right now, there isn't a draft. It doesn't matter, because this can always happen anytime the government decides that it should. They rewrite the rules the minute they need more men for war. They decide that rules previously that would have exempted you are no longer in existence. Right? They decide that, well, it doesn't matter if you can march or not, as long as you can hold a gun. Or it doesn't matter if you can shoot straight or not, as long as you're there to be possibly one of the casualties so that somebody who can shoot a gun isn't. Right? I want to see people convinced enough as to how bad it is to force men to comply, and for women to be exempted, and yet still be able to vote to send men to war, that the people make it so embarrassing for politicians to continue supporting this type of system that the politicians will choose to eliminate it. You guys got anything else to add on top of that?
Good luck and Godspeed.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the tough part.
Yeah, it's just convincing government is just it's beyond an uphill battle. It just feels like something that will never happen, because, as we know, all wars are bankers' wars, and who controls the state? It's not the elected officials that we complain and bitch about every day. It's the banks. And how do you fight against the banks? How do you go toe to toe with these people who control literally every aspect of society? It's
You send in a populist rabble rouser they can't buy.
correct.
Which is why they tried to kill him.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
I feel like I've left a part of my soul behind tonight, but it's okay. I will rebuild it, and yeah, hate men less. That's all I can say. I think a lot of these problems stem from how much everyone hates men, and if they didn't hate men quite so much, a lot of these problems wouldn't have appeared in the first place, and that includes bankers. It includes the military-industrial complex, and it includes all the farty things we talk about all the time, like fucking immigration and, dare I say, feminism. It all stems from just how easy it is to hate men. And I'm just sitting here imagining a, dare I say, utopia in which people just didn't indulge in the hatred of men quite so much. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
No, there are many of us. Yeah.
I hope someday you'll join us.
So with that, I will thank my two co-hosts. This was a lot to ask you guys going through this with me. And of course, Brian in the background, not really getting to talk about it. But running the show. And to all the listeners, and by the way, some of y'all in the chat need to stop lobstering, because that's some bullshit. And
lobstering, what does that mean?
You remember that interview with Jordan Peterson, where God, what was her name?
Yeah, but how does it become a verb? What do you mean? What is lobstering?
Lobstering is doing what she did when she took something that wasn't the
So you're
logical
saying,
conclusion of what he said,
right.
and said, do you mean that this? So you're saying this? No, he didn't say that.
So straw manning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially. But to an utterly ridiculous degree. Like bringing up something that wasn't discussed. Oh, so this false equivalence should never have gone the way that it went in history. I've seen several of those, and every single one of them is bullshit.
Is that in the special chat? Have we got a huge audience in the special chat?
No, it's not in the special chat. It's
Oh.
in the restream chat that has all of our different like YouTube and Twitch and everything else that we're yeah, it's regulars.
Shame.
The special chat is actually not that active. I only see 2 comments in it.
See, I'm glad I don't pay attention to any of these chats. It would only distract me.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah. It's kind of like the people that argue communism with me, and when I suggest that able-bodied people should not be relying on government assistance to pay their bills, they're like, so disabled people should just starve? No, I didn't say that. I said nothing of the sort. So, you can't win that way. You just make yourself look stupid.
Mhm.
But yeah. In any case, thanks everybody for listening. And by the way, still be angry about this. Right? Show this to people. Get people talking about whether or not conscription is even valid, whether especially gendered conscription. And remember, this is men's historical position in society as the shield between the rest of their communities, their states, their nations, and any threat that comes in, or any perceived threat, or anything that's in the government's way, right? And women have never faced that, and as a result, male voting patterns and female voting patterns over the history of the franchise have been dramatically different.
Be angry.
And that's why women shouldn't vote.
Be angry until you get justice. This is what anger is for. But if you ever do get justice, allow yourself to become less angry.
Yeah.
Not until you get justice. And that might take a long time, ladies and gentlemen. Good luck and Godspeed.
Speaking of taking a long time, we're going to call it end to this one, and we will see you next Thursday. We'll also see you on Tuesday. Next Thursday, we are going to go back to discussing the subject we were discussing last week, which was the humanitarian initiative Veil infection and its USAIDs coup against the federal government that was elected by men.
Which is not necessarily all that different.
No, in some ways, no. Night all.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Men's right activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.